welcome. Thank you so much for coming tonight. It's been a crazy fall, and I am amazed that you all are still here because I know that you're working so incredibly hard. So thank you for what you're doing for students, and thanks for being here as well. Tonight, we're going to run the majority of this session from Peardeck. We will transition back to Zoom toward the end, but just be aware that that's what we're going to do. If your internet is not going to let you run out of a Peardeck, you're welcome to just sit back and watch and to use the chat to interact, but that's where we're at. So I'm going to go ahead and put a link to our Peardeck session in the chat, and then I'm also going to add the URL and the join code just in case you have a second device and you want to join on a second one. It is totally up to you. Okay. So again, the link is there. If you want to click on that, you can keep our Zoom window hidden and just work out of Peardeck with us. Or if you want to pull this up on a second device and go to joinpd.com and type in that 6-letter code, that's totally okay too. I can tell from my teacher dashboard, I've got 6 of us connected. And so wait just another minute and then get started. All right. We have 7 connected. So if you are struggling to connect, let me know and we'll try and get you up and running. If not, that's okay though too. So on that very first slide, so it asks you how you're feeling today. Go ahead and answer that. And then on that first slide, same thing we've done the last couple of weeks, use the drawing tools and represent one challenge and one highlight from the past week. And then if you are willing to share a little bit more about that, go ahead and add a star. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and give us 3 minutes to draw our pictures. So let's go ahead and take a look at our student responses. If you can't see these, you're welcome to toggle back over to that Zoom window. But we're going to take a look at a couple of these. So if our artist from this first picture wants to come off and tell us a little bit about their drawing, that would be awesome.
Okay, that would be me. Yeah, from the funny face yesterday, I wasn't feeling good, didn't get a whole lot of sleep, had a headache, was just everything seemed to be going wrong, and the kids weren't getting any work done, and we're never gonna have kids again. Just one of those bad days. Today, I had several encouraging words and emails, and the best part was this one kid who has not turned in a single assignment all year long, turned in this wonderful essay. If you don't mind, I'd like to share it with you. The prompt was, what would you do if you were president? Here's what he said. I want to be president because I will help homeless people. I will be the best president I can be. I will give people a house. I will also be a good president because I would make America home for different types of people. I mean, does that do your heart good or what?
That is awesome.
Isn't that awesome? A second grader.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That's so neat. All right, next up, Melody, do you want to share yours?
Okay, so I guess the challenge is just making sure that you use your time as wisely as possible and keep that life-work balance when you got so much going on in both places. And then a huge highlight for my week, I mean, there's several, but a huge one is I was at Burns yesterday, and I helped them start up the robotics team over there because they do have students. And so that was huge for me, just to take the school that had not had any sort of robotics and to actually help them start a program there.
Melody, that's so cool. Way to go. Good for you. All right, next up we have a jack-o'-lantern. Mrs. Ellsworth, go for it.
Okay, the challenge was I had we were having a field trip on the school grounds because we couldn't go to the pumpkin patch. So I was setting everything up, and I had asked my nephew to get me pumpkins, and he forgot. So I was taking pumpkins from Mary Jane's house and from our house. And so that was the frustration.
Okay.
The success was that even though it was freezing cold, they all liked it.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you got to do that with them.
Well, I don't know. Next time I think I'd set it up inside because it was too windy and cold, but
Okay. That is fair. Well, thank you for sharing that. All right, and mine is the last one in the list. I got pink eye this week. I have no idea how I got pink eye, but it happened. So that was my low of the week. That was kind of unfortunate. My high of the week, though, was that last weekend we got to go. My husband and I went over to Wallowa. That's where his family's from. And so just got to see the trees, and I didn't get to do a very beautiful picture. But like the leaves are turning right now. It's gorgeous. We were up in the mountains, and I love it over there, and I get to see family. So that was definitely my high of the week. But thanks so much for taking a couple of minutes to share. I really appreciate it. I love getting to see these. Did anybody have anything from their week that they wanted to share that they didn't get a chance to?
Well, I didn't have time to get my straw done because I didn't even get my picture done. But we had in the classroom where I'm working now with a practicum student, she's doing the teaching this week, but she feels as strongly about Peardeck as I do, as getting kids actively involved and engaged in the lesson. And so my big highlight was seeing her present all of her curriculum with links to Peardeck that the kids were responding in, and her having that dashboard to see real-time responses and get kids engaged. And it's just been wonderful.
Serena, that's so neat.
My other weird picture is the classroom behavior that we're dealing with. This is a girl laying down with her head hanging down. That's all her blonde hair hanging down in for the camera. Oh yeah, challenge.
Yes, that is fair. And then if you guys didn't get a chance to see, Kathy posted in the chat, her challenge was illness, and then her highlight is It's a Beautiful Day. So Kathy, thanks so much for sharing that. We will go ahead and keep moving. So again, good evening. Welcome to our last October Peardeck PD social. You all know who I am, so we're just going to skip past that. Quick reminder, this is hosted by the Eastern Oregon Wren. It's our virtual PD and networking opportunity that's available to educators from around our region. Most of us I know are from Malheur County, but it was open beyond that. And we've had this on Thursday evenings throughout October. But again, this is our last one. I know next Thursday is still an October Thursday, but we are not meeting. Our major objectives were that we would learn strategies for engaging students and families using Peardeck, and then that we'd be able to collaborate virtually with other educators who are using Peardeck, so that we can share ideas and successes and resources. And so that's what we've been doing, and that's what we'll continue to do tonight. We've talked about this every week, but quick reminder, the first 3 teachers who signed up from our county and have attended all 4 sessions will receive a 1-year paid subscription to Peardeck. And so I would imagine Mary Jane will be in contact to help you figure out how to get that set up, but that is a really valuable resource and something that I'm super excited for you to have. Mary Jane, did you have anything to add to that? Sorry, I just saw you come off mute. All right. Couple of logistics to be aware of. These are really similar to what we've talked about in the past, but I do want to go over them very quickly. Our session will run until 8:30 this evening. We'll get a chance to see things from both the teacher side and the student side. So you're going to work primarily out of the student platform tonight. If you have 2 devices or two windows, you'll be able to see my teacher dashboard next to your student dashboard. Otherwise, though, just plan to see more of the student side tonight, and I'll show you what that's going to look like in just a few. I'm going to do a bit of modeling, but our PD session actually is going to model a new feature in Peardeck that we haven't talked about yet. You'll have a little bit of time to practice and explore tonight. That's really something that we've done a lot the last couple of sessions, but you will get a little bit of that tonight. And then if you want a copy of our slide deck, you're welcome to take it. It's bit.ly/pdsocial4. And I'll have that URL again at the end. With that, my computer is running so slowly. A couple of tips for success. One is just to mute your microphone unless you're sharing, and then that we choose to fully engage in this time. We have just over an hour left, and so I'd encourage you to really just jump in and give this a try. If you've got questions, feel free to use the chat feature to ask. I'll try and keep an eye on that. I'm really bad at missing private messages, so don't take that personally. If you need to send a private message, it's way better to send it to Mary Jane, and then she'll make sure that I get the information that I need to. Again, you can use a second device to see the student side and the teacher side at the same time. But if your internet is struggling, the first step is to turn your camera off. And then the second would be to close out of the Peardeck tab and just watch this from Zoom. With that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So a couple of quick questions. We've answered these before. But I'm just curious, have you used Peardeck in the last week? So go ahead and take that pair and drag it to the appropriate thumb up or thumb down. Awesome, this is good to see. Thanks so much. And if you haven't used Peardeck, please don't feel guilty. It's totally okay. The next question is for those of you that have used Peardeck. How have you been using it in the last week? I'm going to go ahead and share responses. So if you haven't used Peardeck, but you want to hear how other people are using it, jump back over to that Zoom tab and you can see what everybody else is saying. I love this comment about presenting lessons and getting feedback in real time. Lorena kind of alluded to this before, but it's amazing to be able to see what students know in the moment. I was watching a math lesson today, and the teacher was experimenting with Peardeck and learning how to do that. And so they layered on some drawing slides over the top of some screenshots of the math curriculum. And students are solving these math problems that normally they would do in a workbook with a pencil and a paper, but we could sit there and watch from the teacher dashboard them responding in real time. It was almost better than even having whiteboards in person in the classroom because we could see it all at the same time. It was pretty incredible. These are great responses. Thanks so much for sharing, everybody. So we're using it in math to teach the laws of exponents, and then checking for understanding with math multiplication facts, the zero rule and the one factor rule, and getting real-time formative assessment. Yeah, again, the emphasis on real time. This is great. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and keep moving. So if you're typing, just know we're jumping to the next slide. So brief review, but instead of me going back over the things that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, I'm going to let you do the review for me. So first question, we talked about three main components, three main pieces of Peardeck. And I just want to see if we remember what they are. Three main components. Go ahead and give this a try. Your names are not going to be projected next to this. Give it your best shot. You guys are awesome. You could be teaching this class for me. This is great. So we have the website. That's one of them. The Google Slides add-on. Awesome. And somebody got it. We have the Peardeck power up. That's that extra extension. Great call on the vocabulary though. I would definitely argue that that could be considered a fourth component. These are awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and keep moving in 3, 2, 1. Next question for you. So you should have some drawing tools available to you this time. But which button in the toolbar, so that would be up at the top of your screen, which button in the toolbar opens that Peardeck sidebar? What do we have to click? You can circle it, you can draw an arrow to it. You just make your best guess.
What?
Opens that Peardeck sidebar.
The one that's already open that you already have open?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yep, the one that's already open. How do we get that one to open?
well, mine has my screen has a Peardeck, like I just click on the pair. And
Okay,
yours doesn't
yours
have that, so you must be hitting like add-ons or something.
right on. Yep, I'm just gonna show one of these responses. Yep, so we click the add-ons unless, like Brad pointed out, yours has the little pair and it's got a Peardeck. Some of them do, some of them don't. I think it has to do with the Power Up extension, but I could be totally wrong. All right, next question. Which of the question types that you can see on the right side, which of those ones are free? Again, you can use arrows, you can circle, you can highlight. Awesome. Yep, I'm showing responses, but I'm realizing that not all of you can see these. You are correct. That whole top row. So the text responses, the multiple choice, the numbers, and the websites. Those are all free. We do have to pay for the drawing slides and the draggable slides. Okay, next question. How do we access pre-made interactive slides? Where do we go? You guys are right on. We go to the template library. And I'm going to show you tonight how to get to an even more extensive template library. Peardeck puts a lot of their templates here in the add-on, but they also store them in another place called the Orchard. And so we'll take a look at the Orchard a little bit later. Okay, if we want to launch an interactive presentation, which button do we need to push? Just ran into this situation with a teacher today. She called and said, I am so frustrated. I don't even know what to do. I pushed present and my students couldn't click anything. And so we got on and she was showing me what she did. And I said, oh, it's not the present button. It's a different one. And I love that you guys are finding it. We have to launch out of the add-on in order to have an interactive presentation. Yep. So we click the green button that says start lesson. All right, once I've finished a presentation, how do I access the data report? This one's a little bit tricky. We have talked about this. We know to get to the data report, we have to go to the website. But once we get to the website, where do we click to find our data? If you are not sure on this one, go ahead and toggle over to our Zoom presentation for just a second. Go ahead and open that tab. And I'm going to let one of your colleagues share this with you. We click on the Sessions tab. It's at the very top. It's a little tiny button, but we click on the Sessions tab, and that's where we go to get to our presentation data after we've closed out the presentation. All right. And if I want to launch a flashcard factory experience, where do I need to click? This is our last question. Yep, you guys are right on the Peardeck vocabulary, creative vocabulary list. Thank you very much. Hey, so that is not, obviously not everything that we've covered the last couple of sessions, but just I wanted to capture a couple of the highlights. Before we move on into new content, do you have any questions that have come up this week? They can be related to things that we've covered, but they can also just be questions that you have.
Can you layer one on top of another?
One question type on top of another?
Yeah, because I was wondering like the draggable dots on top of like a text one too, but it couldn't seem to get layered on top. It only does like one at a time.
Yeah, it does only do one at a time. The workaround that their rep told us was to use the drawing feature because the drawing will let them use the text and it will let them draw. So it's not exactly the same, but you could do like a couple different things with the same slide.
Right.
Great question. Any others?
Yeah, McKenzie, when you're doing it live with the class, that should be the teacher paste,
Mhm.
not the student paste, right? But if you're
Right.
going to do it for them to have homework practice, then it would be student paste.
Exactly. If you put it in teacher paste, when you give it for homework, they're going to be stuck on the same slide.
Okay.
Yep. Another great question. We're going to actually look at student paste and teacher paste modes tonight. So that's a great little segue. Okay, we'll go ahead and keep going, but if you have a question, please feel free to ask your question. Before we jump into new content, I did want to go back to this. I gave an invitation last week that if you wanted to bring a Peardeck to share and to get feedback from your colleagues, you were welcome to do that tonight. So did anybody bring a Peardeck that they wanted to share? It can be one you've done with your students or one that you're planning to do in the future.
How do you want it shared, McKenzie?
So Brad, ideally, if you're interested, you can either project, like I'll stop sharing mine and we can open a new tab and do an instructor paste mode, or if you want to send us a student paste link, then we can flip through slides and take a look.
So I could just send you the link to it then?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so Brad, if you want to send a link, you're welcome to, and if not, then that's okay too. Right, we'll go ahead and keep going, but we definitely have time to look at that if that's something that you want to share. Okay, a couple of new things tonight. I'm going to share with you our outline. We've reviewed some key information. Oh, perfect. Before we do this, let's go ahead and take a look at Brad's session. So in the chat, you have a link, and Brad has this in student paste mode, which is right on. So go ahead and you can open it. It's going to end up being a third tab. So you'll go back to our Zoom conversation, take a look in the chat.
It might be a little long for, I mean, it's more paced for probably 50-minute long
Okay.
session or so.
So
it might
let's
be quite long for somebody to go through.
do this. Let's take about 5 minutes to just sort of scan. If you want to enter responses, then you can enter responses, but let's just go ahead and skim and scan. And then we'll see what we can do in about 5 minutes. Does that work, Brad? And then if people get super excited and they want to look at it later, then they can too. But let's go ahead and we'll take about 5 minutes to do this. So we'll come back at 7:42. But let's just go ahead and take a look at what he does with his students. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd love to be able to give Brad some feedback. And so I I would love either in the chat, if you want to give feedback in the chat, you can do that, or if you want to come off mute, that would be fine too. But what about this? What about this catches your attention, or what do you notice? What aspects of this do you think could be really effective with students? I love that. Melody's right on. Checks for understanding. Kathy says, I noticed the clarity for focus, the graphics, the questions, the mix of responses to the questions. Yeah. This is great. Brad, I really appreciated how active you are requiring your students to be in this learning process. They're not, I mean, it's obvious they're not sitting back and just listening to you the entire time. They're having to interact with the content constantly. And one of the things that I noticed, because you shared a presentation a couple weeks ago and then last week too, just like Jody said, the mixture of response questions, right? You're changing the way that students are interacting with the text. It's not just a fill in the blank, but it's summarize what you've learned, use the drawing tools and represent this a different way, that sort of thing. So that's super exciting to see. Brad, how are you, let's see how I can ask this question. How is this going in class? What are you noticing? What seems to be working well?
It seems to be, going pretty well. I think what I've noticed is that when I was doing more of the like fill in the blank with me talking too much, that I don't think they were picking up quite enough of what I wanted, that they were busy typing things in instead of kind of paying attention to maybe the content or thinking about the content. So I've added some different things in there, like some videos for them to watch, and then some response for that, for them to maybe see some things instead of just type some things.
That's great. Thank you. Is there anything that I know you said you're working on the ending, hoping to improve the ending some. Is there anything else that you look and go, okay, if I could change this to make it better, this is what I would do?
Well, that one slide that I'm trying to do the graph on of distance versus displacement, if there's any way I could get them to be able to measure on that graph and draw on the graph and measure on the graph.
Okay.
And, and be able to manipulate that ruler. I would love to be able to do that, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so either, but that's a great idea. I like that a whole lot. Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks again for sharing, and everybody, thanks for taking the time to look at that. I love getting to see the presentations that are happening in the classroom. So, okay, we're going to jump back over to tonight's outline. And so, like I said before, we did a review of key information. We got a chance to see an actual presentation that's happening in the classroom. And in just a minute, we're going to step into student pace mode. And you're going to learn about student pace mode tonight. That's actually what you just got to experience from Brad, an entire presentation that is student paced. We're just going to look at a small section that's student paced. So we started out in person, right? This is considered synchronous instruction because we're all here at the same time. But at some point, even in synchronous instruction, right, it's time for some independent exploration and practice. And so we're going to actually step into student paced mode. I'm going to click a button in just a minute, and you're going to actually learn about student paced mode in student paced mode. So you'll get to see an overview of this. We'll also talk about adding audio to slides and how you can do that. That's a tool that you could use in student paced or teacher paced mode, but if you have the paid version of Peardeck, can be incredibly powerful and a huge support, especially for our young learners. And then I'll go over a couple of additional Peardeck resources. Now, in student paced mode, there's quite a bit of content. You may not make it all the way through, and that's totally okay. I'll go back and capture some of the highlights. So take as much time as you need. but we're going to reconvene at 8:10, and you're going to know that we're coming back together because I'm just going to click a button and it's going to bring you back to the spot in the slides that I want you. If you finish early, feel free to stretch, to use the restroom, do whatever you need to do. But we'll come back together at 8:10. You'll get a little bit of time to practice, and then we'll conclude our session at 8:30. So that's our plan. I want to give you a little bit more information about student paced mode though before I set you loose. So here's the information you need. In just a couple minutes, our Peardeck lesson will become student paced. You'll be able to interact with the content at the rate that you choose. You're going to use the arrows. We did just see those with Brad's in the lower left corner to navigate through the slides. It should leave you where I put you in student paced mode, but when I practiced this earlier today, it bumped me back to the very beginning of the slide deck. So if it does, just remember the number 24, and you can just skip ahead to slide 24, and that's where we're at. Again, it shouldn't happen, but if it does, 24 is the magic number. Anytime you see this icon that our arrow is pointing to, audio has been added to this slide, and so you want to keep an eye out for that icon. If you see that icon in the bottom right corner, there is a set of headphones. If you click on the headphones, that's going to open the audio player. You can push play and listen to the narration that goes along with the slide. If you reach the stop sign, you'll see a picture of a stop sign. Please don't continue any further. We'll reconvene at 8:10. Any questions before we start? All right, we are going to go ahead and begin. And I'm going to set you loose in student paced mode. Now you should see arrows and be able to toggle through our slides at your own speed. Great questions. Thank you so much. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and stop. I know some of us are to the stop sign, some of us are not quite there yet, and that is absolutely okay. Originally, I was going to stop student paced mode and show you that as soon as I click stop, it's going to actually put you all in the same spot in our presentation so that I can bring us back together where I want us. But I actually don't want to do that because I want to show you what a live student paced mode looks like. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I know you've got a tab open or a window, something with our Peardeck presentation, but you also have one open with Zoom. If you would click on the Zoom tab really quickly, this is going to let you see the teacher dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I want you to see what this looks like on the teacher side, because I think this is so incredibly powerful. So this is my teacher dashboard, and what you're looking at on the left side is the list of all of my slides. You'll notice in the bottom corner of some of my slides, I have a silhouette and a number. This is the number of students who are on each slide. So at a glance, I can see I've got 4 students at the stop sign, and I've got some students who aren't quite there yet. If I want to know who is on the slide, all I have to do is click on the silhouette, and I'm given a list of all of the students who are on this slide. So I know exactly where my students are at in a given moment, okay? As my students are responding, I get to see their responses come in live time. I actually took a screenshot of this so that you could see this from earlier. But I had several students who were finished with slide 31, and then somebody that was still typing. And as you guys are typing, as students are typing, I can see all of the responses pop up with names attached. I can star these responses if I think, oh, I want to share this later with the class. I can also click on the comment button and write a private comment to a student based off of the information that they left. So if I need to give feedback and say like, hey, you're on the wrong track, here's how to fix this, then I can do that privately. Nobody else has to know about it. I can also praise and encourage and prompt and that sort of thing. I can ask follow-up questions, but I can do all that from the teacher dashboard. So now what I'm going to do, go ahead and jump back to our Peardeck presentation because I want to show you what happens when we stop student paced mode. I'm going to click on that very last slide that you were writing on, and I'm going to actually jump this over. I'm going to click on that last slide, that advantages and disadvantages slide, and we're going to click stop student paced mode. And when I do that, that's going to take all of us to that last slide, even if that's not the slide that you were on. If by some chance it didn't take you there, just know that we are on, I'm just going to look for our slide number 45, but it should have taken us here. So advantages and disadvantages of student-paced mode. I'm going to go ahead and show responses. They're not going to have names attached to them. So you're welcome to look at these from the Zoom window. I did just want you to see from the Peardeck side that it does take us all to the same spot in the presentation. But we're actually finished with the Peardeck side now. So you can, I mean, feel free to leave it open, but you can close that and head back to Zoom because I do want you to be able to see this dashboard now. So some advantages: students can progress at their own pace. Independent work is made much easier with understanding checks. You have multiple ways to use for homework. There are some disadvantages though too. Students can skip over the slides without answering, and they can rush through them. Absolutely. We don't have a way to require them to answer on a specific slide. That's just not a feature that they have for us. So they can skip through, they can rush, they can go way too fast. Waiting and wondering if they're ever going to finish the assignment or if they're ever going to begin the assignment. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing these. I really appreciate it. And then if they're all at a different spot, you're trying to do a summary at the end of the class or a formative assessment during class, yeah, and not everybody's finished. That can get a little tricky. I love that, that we can pull them back to the same spot. That helps them. But it is a student-paced thing. And so if they haven't paced themselves correctly and they're not done, then your students don't end at the same time. So absolutely pros and cons, and we just kind of have to decide for our students and our specific lessons and our needs, which one is more appropriate. But I did want you to have the chance to just see how that works. We made it to the stop sign. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to this. And then we did go ahead and close the Peardeck window and return to Zoom. It is 8:16, and I know that I said I was going to give us some time to practice. I can do that, but I want to make sure, excuse me, that I answer any questions that we have first. And so if something caught your attention and you feel like you need to go back to it and take some time to look around and practice, whether that's adding audio to slides, please feel free to do that right now. But do you have more questions or things that caught your attention? Okay. I'm gonna flip our order just a little bit. Like I said, if you want to take time to practice, you can absolutely do that. And I will stick around as long as you need to do that. But I do want to spend just a minute or two telling you about a final opportunity that I think is worth sharing. And that is a professional development event that's happening in a couple of weeks. So Peardeck every once in a while hosts these free professional development events for educators. They call them Pear Fair. And they hosted a Pear Fair in August and had a crazy turnout. So they decided they were going to host another one. I was in a session, they had like 1,500 teachers that were participating, and they said, do not actually respond to this Peardeck. You will break it because there are too many of us. But they have phenomenal professional development, and they're hosting a free PD weekend on November 14th, 2020. It's a Saturday, which I know you may need to take a break from school, and that's totally okay. But they have PD, and they've got a specific learning track for educators and one for administrators, and I'm going to add coaches into that category as well. They're going to talk about building classroom culture when you're teaching remotely, app smashing, which is basically taking Peardeck and layering in other apps. I've seen people do it with like Flipgrid, Jamboard, Google Forms, that sort of thing. So they'll talk about how to connect lots of different apps through Peardeck. leveraging technology if you're teaching in a hybrid classroom, and a whole lot more. So I'm looking forward to it. Please don't feel pressured to do this. I'm planning to go because their event in August was phenomenal. It goes from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Like I said, it's completely free, but just a neat opportunity to participate in some really good PD that's put on by people who get paid by Peardeck to do lots of training and really know what they're doing and know that product well. So just know that is an opportunity that's available to you. With that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for engaging and for sharing and collaborating and responding to discussions and that sort of thing. I really appreciate it. I know it's a huge sacrifice to be here in the evenings, especially when we've got school tomorrow. So again, thank you so much. If you have questions, if there's something that I can do to support you in this process, please feel free to send me an email. My address is here on the slide. And then if you want a copy of this slide deck, you're welcome to it. It's bit.ly/PD social number 4. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this. But before I do, I just want to ask Mary Jane. Mary Jane, do you need anything else from us or have anything else that you want to share?
No, I just want to say thank you, McKenzie. We really appreciate you.